guys, my name is Corey Matthews and I am really excited to be chatting with you today. And so one of the big topics that I always get questions on Instagram, questions on Facebook is let's talk about hormones, because what really happens when I talk to women is they want to lose weight. So almost every single client of mine reaches out and the number one thing on their mind is I want to lose weight. The key is that they want to lose weight, but they want to keep it off. So that's really the biggest thing, is so many clients that I reach out to with women. So I just wrote down a couple little tips here, because what I want to give you today is short and sweet. I want to give you 3 easy tips to implement in your life. It's going to be about nutrition. So I'm going to tell you something here. Losing weight is really simple. I know. I hear you right now. You're saying, yep, you're lying. It's really not that simple. But losing weight really is simple. The key is that there's a few things that you have to do. So the tricks are simple. The things that you have to do are simple. The mindset, what you have to do up here, is the really, really hard part of it. That is the part that's going to take so much time and going to be so hard for you. So before we get into that, I want to just introduce myself a bit so you know who is this person that's talking about hormones and what's her background and what does she know. So, and I will preface this as I start to tell you my background, I am 43. Most people will say, yeah, you're not that old, but yes, I'm 43. I've been married for 21 years. I have 2 little girls, and so I have been doing a lot of this for the last 20 plus years. So I had a really great anatomy professor that taught me really cool things about the body in high school, and I found out that how our body reacts and how it works and how it moves is just fascinating. And if you treat the body right with nutrition, with proper training, with rest, sleep, and the proper supplements, you're actually going to live the best life possible. So my background includes a bachelor's in exercise phys, a master's in sports medicine. I've got a dozen certifications in fitness and nutrition. So lots of information there. So I've spent the better part of the last 15 years studying everything you can about nutrition and exercise. But really what it comes down to is the work that I do directly with my clients. So not only have I worked with women, but I was Gold's Gym International's pre-postnatal expert. I helped design the Marine Corps' pre-postnatal program that they used for getting not just wives, not just the military wives, but the service members back in shape after having babies. So I've been doing a lot with working with women over the years. And the thing that they always find is that they come to me and they want to lose weight. But how many of you have done this before? You do a diet and you work really, really hard on it and you lose the weight, and after you've done it for a while, then you're like, oh, okay, I'm done. I want to eat cake. I want to have a glass of wine. I want to go out to the parties, and I don't want to be so restrictive. And so I think that's what happens to so many women. And so then you find yourself that, okay, great. I lost 20 pounds and now I slowly see the 20 pounds creeping back on. And so how am I supposed to do this? How do I enjoy life? How do I have a kid's party? How do I go out and do anything and maintain my weight loss? Primarily, most of my clients that I work with today, they are anywhere from the ages of 30 to 60. And why that population? Because they fit me. So I would say probably just a little bit more backstory. 4 years ago, I moved here from California. I left leaving Virginia, where I had lived for 13 years. I had 2 brick and mortar nutrition stores. I had kids in really happy schools. I was running bodybuilding shows. So go look me up on the internet, look me up on YouTube, you'll see, go in Corey Matthews, as long as you spell it right, CORRYMATTHEWS, you'll see all of my professional stuff as a bodybuilder. So you can look all that stuff up. So I moved here about 4 years ago, and I was sad, I was depressed, I was 20 pounds overweight. I was where I knew so many of my clients that are broken and come to me and just don't know where they want to go. The key is, as a fitness and nutrition expert, I knew what I needed to do. I knew I needed to clean up my nutrition. I knew I needed to get back in the gym in my happy place. But the thing is that everything I had done before didn't work this time. So thinking of yourself right now, how many of you are in that spot where you're like, okay, that's right. I've tried all the fitness I used to do. I've tried all the nutrition I used to do. But the problem is that when we hit our 30s, our 40s, and our 50s, our hormones aren't the same anymore. So those hormones have changed, and now we're dealing with everything I did before no longer works. So really what I wanted to give you today is 3 simple tips, things that you can do that will dramatically really change your life. Now, these things that I'm going to tell you, they're simple, but the mindset change is what's going to be tricky, and it's going to be hard to do because they really do make a difference. But if I just give them at a high level and I tell you, I need you to stop drinking alcohol, I need you to stop eating sugar, and I need you to stop eating grains. I know you're hearing, wait a second, that's every other diet that I've ever heard. And I don't necessarily think that I can do that, and I don't want to give everything up. I don't want an all or nothing approach. What I want you to focus on is that 90% of the time what you eat are going to be your good go-to foods. So I'll explain what that looks like to you in a minute. The other 10% of the time, that's when you go out and you're going to go and have a cocktail with a friend, or you're going to go to a kid's birthday party, or you're even going to go away for the weekend and have a total blast. But that 90% of the time, we have to eat the right way. So let me just read this to you so you guys understand this, because I want to make sure that I get this right. Weight loss resistance is almost always hormonally based and not calories in and calories out. So there's the first myth I'm going to bust for you. If you're thinking that based on the calories in that you have versus the calories out that you burn through exercise, you are actually going to see a difference in your scale and a difference in your weight, you're mistaken. That used to work when you were younger, but now that our hormones are in play, that's not going to be the same thing. The other thing that we find is that once your metabolism is broken, you are stuck in fat storage mode. So once everything is not working any longer, you've had those foods in that aren't fueling your metabolism, you are going to be storing fat. What does this mean? Every time you eat fat, depending on what it is, any type of food you're going to eat, it turns into fat. So what we want to do is we want to fix that broken metabolism and get you back into fat burning, because I promise you there is a way to fix it. And I just read a motivating story about a 70-year-old woman that started at the age of 70, and by 75 she's fitter than most 20-year-olds I know. So I don't want you to use age as an excuse. You can definitely make this work regardless of your age. So a couple things I want you to think of. Listen to these and answer, are any of these you? Are you bloated? Do you feel bloated all the time? Do you find it difficult to lose weight? So if you eat right, everything goes right, and you still find, you look at the pounds on the scale and it's still the same thing, maybe you've got tenderness in your breasts. Not the kind that's once a month kind of thing, but they just overall kind of achy different pains. What if you find lumps, so painful lumps in your breasts, the cystic fibrosis little lumps that we can have? How about irregular menstrual periods? So are those starting? Are you having one once a month and then all of a sudden it's 3 months? Or maybe it comes more than once a month. That's typical for some women. Increased symptoms of PMS. I'll say yes, I've had these. Those have happened to me. And I'm not talking about I want to cry. I'm talking about, okay, I need a punching bag. I need to get rid of this frustration because I'm literally going to strangle someone. I think the funniest thing for me was when I was going through and starting perimenopause. The key is to ask your mom when she went through menopause, ask your grandma when she went through menopause. My mom always told me she was done and through menopause by 45. For most people, that's really young. But I knew that this was coming. And so when I started getting it, I was like, it's really weird. It's not like I'm depressed or sad or anything. It's like, literally, I'm like, it's fits of rage. And for me, it's like the hormones boil up, and any of you that have had a hot flash, you know what it's like. You're sitting there and it's like somebody has turned on an electric furnace inside of you. Now, this can happen in your 20s, it can happen in your 30s. It doesn't have to be in our 40s and 50s, but you're looking around at everybody going, oh my gosh, can everybody see that I'm bright red? Can they tell that this furnace is burning inside of me? And so with that, for me, came this uncontrollable rage. These nutrition tips that I'm going to teach you, they made a huge difference in how I felt. So a couple other ones besides that, your mood swings. So yes, it can go the other way. You can be really sad and crying, or you can be ecstatic and happy, or like I said, you need a punching bag. Other thing, headaches, anxiety too. Maybe you didn't have anxiety before and all of a sudden you feel like every little thing is, did I pay that bill? Did I do this for the kids? Did I leave something on at work? All of these things that come up, all of these things can be determined by our hormones. So first thing that we talk about as we start to move over is what's called estrogen dominance. This is where that alcohol gets into play, and I'm going to talk about red meat. So this is a bonus tip for you here. So with elevated estrogen, what is happening, and so again, this can happen at any time with PCOS, it can happen in perimenopause, with menopause, your estrogen is way high and your progesterone is way down. So this is the imbalance of these two things. Normally that happens with your same cycle, but the really big key thing is that these are different. So these hormones are at different levels. So one of the things that I like to work with women is then what we want to do is prevent any extra xenoestrogens in your body. So there are so many options, and I'll tell you, if you are experiencing perimenopause and menopause, go talk to your healthcare provider, talk to your doctor. There's so much that they can do with hormone replacement therapy, but most of the things that I work on with my clients are how we can do it holistic and naturally. And so I'm always upfront with everyone and tell them I don't take any hormone replacement therapy. I'm on no birth control pills, nothing there. So everything that I have done and pretty much made it manageable and tolerable, if you ask me, don't ask my husband, is all been specifically with food. So the xenoestrogens we're talking about, if you eat red meat, I'm not telling you have to give it up. The biggest thing I want you to do is I want you to use grass-fed, grass-finished beef, pork, eggs, and dairy. So the key here is I want you to be eating animals and proteins the way it was designed in nature. So grass-fed means it's pasture-raised. It's going to stay on a pasture all of its life. It's not locked in cages. Less stress hormones, less complications of hormones coming across from the meat to the female body. The other thing that we're going to find specifically with the beef industry, and why I want you to focus on this with specifically dairy and specifically beef, grass-fed, grass-finished is the key. If it's not grass-finished, what it means is it's fed corn the last remaining parts of its life. So one of the things I'm going to talk about in a minute is I don't want you eating corn, I don't want you eating grains, so therefore I don't want you eating animals that are consuming grains as well. Why do I say no alcohol? Alcohol goes straight into the next one. So first tip right there that I talked about was I want you to go, I want it to be grass-fed, grass-finished. Second thing here is we talk about alcohol. Alcohol directly transitions into sugar alcohol. You have to be a hermit on this planet if you have not heard somebody talk about that we shouldn't be eating sugar. Walk into any Costco, and what's the very first thing you're going to see when you start walking down the nutrition aisle? Keto, 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 paleo, paleo, paleo. We all know that we've got to avoid as much sugar as possible. How much sugar? So that second tip we're going to talk about here is really I need you to avoid sugar. So this is where your alcohol comes in. Alcohol turns into sugar. Also, when you're consuming alcohol, it's one of the hardest things to digest in the liver. If you want to live well, if you want to give your metabolism a fighting boost, don't muck it all up with digesting alcohols in the liver. So why do we want to reduce our sugar? Increased risk of depression, increased risk of developing insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, depletes your energy, increases acne. Yes, adult acne can happen. Negatively impacts dental health, increases your chance of developing gout, painful inflammation in your joints, can lead to impaired memory. I think this is one of the biggest ones is most people, when I start working with them on removing sugar, and I ask them, do you have brain fog? Do you ever wake up in the morning and go, oh, what was I supposed to do? Or you're working on something and go, what was I supposed to do? That is brain fog. If you've heard people talk about keto, that's one of the things that they'll talk about is that all of a sudden they see clearer, and it's because they've reduced the sugar. So in a simple, easy way of sugar, what does that look like? And for sugar, we think less than 15 grams of sugar a day. So real quickly, I get what you're saying. You're going, great, I'm just gonna switch to all the artificial sweeteners. No problem, I'm gonna use those. The problem is that your body, after you use artificial sweeteners for a long time, your body starts to assume that anything that is sweet and anything that comes as a sugar form is something that doesn't have calories. So therefore, it starts doing this nasty little thing where it doesn't want to digest sugar the right way. Doesn't need it, doesn't digest it properly, and if you listen to what I talked about with the liver, what it's doing, and when it's all mucked up with alcohol, it's going to turn it all into fat. So excess sugar is going to relate to excess fat. So what we want to really focus on doing is reducing the sugar. So as we talk about those two, we pull those all together. So don't worry, I'm going to tell you a little bit of how we put this together and make it make sense. The next one is going grain-free. So I want you to pay attention here. I did not say low carb or no carb. For women, it is key that you still want to make sure that you have carbohydrates in your diet. If your carbohydrates go too low, then you can really negatively impact the rest of your hormones. So going grain-free means, what are grains? Corn, of course I just mentioned corn, right? all of your wheats, all of your glutens. So a lot of people think it's really cool to go gluten-free recently, right? You go anywhere, any store, you walk in and you see gluten-free, gluten-free. The biggest thing that I always tell clients is that wheat isn't what it used to be 20 years ago. I grew up eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch with a giant glass of milk. Those are like, we don't eat bread, we don't eat peanut butter, and we don't eat milk these days. It's because our food has changed so much. So genetically modified foods, all of the changes that have happened, it's really moving back to the way years and years and years ago that we had eaten. If you've heard of the Whole30 foods or you've heard of paleo, they are focusing on whole foods, not processed foods. So quinoa, lentils, legumes, those are all great options. So what I really want you to do is get rid of your breads. If you love pasta, guess what? They make fabulous lentil pasta. You know what? My kids eat it too. So there are ways that you can do it. I don't want you to fool yourself into thinking that eating healthier means you have to eat really bland and go blah. So the big thing with the grains, why are grains such an issue? Grains are such an issue and because of how it affects your thyroid. So thyroid is like the regulating hormone for women. You've got your T3, you've got your T4, and you've got your TSH. You've heard those hormones before. Those are going to be critical for regulating your metabolism. We do not want to, basically, I like to think of the thyroid as you add grains and it just mucks everything up. Just like the alcohol, it sucks everything, it locks it. If you've ever realized, talked to somebody about a gluten intolerance, gluten is glue. If you think of that, so if somebody has a gluten intolerance, what it's doing is it's the binder. So think about, if you've ever tried gluten-free bread versus regular bread, it's not fluffy. It doesn't have the glue and the binding that makes it rise and makes it that yummy goodness of bread. Not saying don't ever have bread, but 90% of the time, I want you to remove grains. So I'm gonna make this really simple for you. Very easy. You can go to my website, and it is strengthandgracefitness.com. Go there, and as you come to the website, there is a free downloadable hormone friendly options for meals. So it's basically a meal plan. What it looks at is I teach you how to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner without having grains, with having grass-fed, grass-finished, and reducing your sugar. I'll go one even further and tell you, you can look on our website, and again, strengthandgracefitness.com. You can go on that website, check out the recipe. There's over 100 different recipes. If you click on 21-day detox, you will see that all of those recipes are going to follow these guidelines. They're gonna be grain-free, they're gonna be gluten-free, most of them are gonna be dairy-free, they're gonna be sugar-free, and all of the proteins that we're using are grass-fed and grass-finished. Now, one of the things that we do offer is that we talk about, there's two different methods of nutrition when you look at this. There is the jump all in. There is, I'm gonna get a diet and I'm gonna do it and I'm going to go exactly through it. I will tell you from 20 years of working with clients, unless you are one of my hardcore bodybuilders, if you get a diet that says, okay, I want you to give up wine, I want you to give up chocolate, I want you to give up bread, I want you to give up pasta, it's gonna be really, really hard. So there's the simplicity of it. It's simple to say, these are all the things that you've got to do. Give yourself some grace and some patience in doing this. So one of the things that in our program, I always tell people when we work with clients, we remove things every 3 days. So we give you a chance to digest it. We remove it for 3 days. We educate you on why do we remove that. So if you like what you've heard here and you want to make some of these changes and suggestions, easiest thing I recommend for you, if you are currently drinking wine, take the wine, instead of pouring it in your wine glass, take that same white wine glass that you're using, pour some seltzer in it. Try that at night. I know it's not the same as your wine, but what I want you to do is for 1 week, do that. The second week, look at removing that sugar. So pay attention to the sugar. It's looking at food labels, it's looking at ingredient panels. See where that sugar is coming from and see if you can't limit it to 15 grams of sugar. Once you've done those two and you've done those two successfully, on the third week, go ahead and then remove the grains. So take out the breads. I'm even going to tell you, take out the rice, take out the oatmeal. Those are all single grains. I want you to pull yourself away from grains. So those are 3 big ones. I tell you, if you can get rid of those 3 and pull them out of your diet for 21 days and then gradually put them back in, you're gonna see a big, big difference. But if you want more tips on how to do this, we do a weekly email every week that's got tons of nutrition tips and things that you can get. Sign up right on our website and you've got all that really good information. But one last thing that I want to add here is that find out what your why is. Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to lose the weight? Why do you want to make the changes in your body? What is it that's that driving force? So first thing I ask you is, immediately when I said why, what was that thought that came in your mind? Was it my kids? Was it my husband? Was it because I feel fat? Because quite frankly, that's what a lot of us are when we're feeling like we're 20 pounds overweight and we need to lose weight. What is that why? Now that why, I'm going to tell you that that's BS. That's not your real why. I want you to go down a little bit deeper and ask yourself, what is the really big why? What is that why for you? I told you 4 years ago when I moved here, I was feeling really depressed and not where I wanted to be. My why was that I live in California and it is sunny outside and it is beautiful. And I was embarrassed to wear shorts every day. I was embarrassed to go to the ocean with my kids. Not because I was really overweight. I was overweight from what I knew to be my healthiest, but I knew that I needed to be the example. As a health and nutrition coach, I needed to set that example for my clients and for them to see that. And so my why was that I wanted to never ever worry about putting on clothes, meeting with clients, and being introduced to people. Sure, that's gonna help my kids. Sure, that's gonna help grow my business, but I needed my confidence back to share this message with you. So I encourage you, take a risk, put it all out there, count on you, do this for yourself, and if you need any help, you can find us at strengthandgracefitness.com, and we'll be right there waiting for you. Thanks so much.